Ain't nowhere to go anymore, is it?
Good morning.
Hey, Dwayne.
Good morning. Before we get started, I want to verify we just more or less we're done with classes Thursday the 8th of December. So 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. Is that what y'all have for the end?
Yeah, technically
John,
we
you're
have.
off a day before that, aren't you?
We're off, I think, the 9th, the Friday after that. No, it's pretty much consistent there. Our
Yeah,
exams.
our-
Do you have one day there that we're not going to have class with your registration?
That's the 1st and 2nd that we're off.
I think we've only got like 4 or 5 classes left, right?
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, it's today and then 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, and that's it.
And then there's one day when John's got class.
Yeah, that's
John.
December the 1st, and that's the day he was. Oh, you got class on, something on December the 1st? No classes? Because he's doing the test today. His wife's getting surgery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, December the 1st and 2nd, we have a registration blast, which I don't think is going to amount to much, but anyway, that's what they've done. So.
Okay, so y'all are not going to have class December the 1st?
No.
Okay.
So if I counted up right, I think we've got 4 classes left.
Yes, counting today, that would be 4.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And I just want to remind my Southside people that our last lab is Friday, December the 2nd at Red House. But that's.
Boy, I'm envious of you guys. That's their sale, isn't it?
Yes. That's the plan.
That will be fun to go to.
Well, hop in the truck and come on down.
I just can't. I can't go out there.
Okay then.
I just don't have the time to drive out. But it would be a great lab to go
Yep. Okay.
to. Most of the sales
John,
here
did we
are on.
take our agriculture with you?
Do what?
Did we just take our agriculture exam with you?
I'll talk to him and see. Yeah, I talked to Tony this morning.
All
We're
right.
working on trying to get some plants. We just haven't done everything as far as the landscape deal. She'll be in touch with you. Yeah, we'll work out something on that.
Okay. We've been talking about nutrition
Here you are.
and balancing rations. And I told you I'd give you a homework assignment to do. And it is on Blackboard. If you'll take a look at the folder under the folder ration balance. There's where you're going to find your information. The example that we worked through is under this Pearson Square. Your NRC tables are right there. Nutrient requirements. And what we talked about, we talked a little about, the production stages of cattle. That's going to be in part 1 or part 2. We talked about that. So you do need to those in the Arkansas Extension publications. You will have some exam questions on that. Your ration balancing assignment. This is it right here.
Hey,
now, it's a little
mister.
Out. Go ahead.
I can't hear you.
Can't what?
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. My mouth is right on this mic. And we're still having microphone issues. And it's challenging to me, frustrating that we don't have it fixed yet. And I know it's that way for you guys as well. And I apologize.
Blaine, when you make a conscious effort like you just did, the audio is pretty good. But I know when you're thinking and looking at your PowerPoints and so forth, it's real easy to deviate from that. So, you know, it's just a marginal thing, but as long as you can be aware of it, I think it'll be acceptable.
Okay. All right. All your
That's good there.
information is right up here. Everything we've talked, everything we talked about with nutrition is going to be in the book, in the PowerPoints, and these extension publications from Arkansas. You will have some questions coming from these extension publications, so I would highly recommend you to read them. You will need to know the 4 stages of a cow's, the production cycle of beef cows. And you can find those in here. To do the homework assignment, the example that we worked through is right here in that Pearson square, plus your notes. We did the same one that was here in this extension publication. And there's where you can find your nutrient requirement tables to look up your nutrient requirements for those cattle that you won't have to balance a ration for. Here is your assignment. What you're going to be doing is you have a 1,100 pound beef cow with about 20 pounds of milk production for the first 3 months after calving. And I was nice enough. I did give you the information from that extension publication. You just had to figure out which one you can use. You can use your notes. So this is a learning deal. You need to learn it. You can use that example. Your scenario is, I gave you the requirements of the animal, and I gave you what you're going to be feeding, which is hay and corn. And I want you to balance a ration for the first 3 months after calving. So your first question, it's how many pounds of hay and corn on a dry matter basis will you need to fill the energy requirement? I want to see your work. And please circle your final answer so I can find it easy. Then I'm asking you on part B, is the protein requirement yet met? Yes or no? That simple of a question. But I want to see you check whether or not that protein requirement is met. I want to see your math on how you derived your answer. Then I want you to convert the amount of hay and the amount of corn that you're feeding to an as-fed basis. Remember, you got to add the water back to it. And then I want you to figure out the price of that ration. Now, this assignment I used when I made it up, I need to make another one. But I used the costs for a few years back when corn was high. It's the same principle, but it's just different numbers. I used the price of $9 a bushel, and it's about $3 a bushel now. And then I used a $60 price for a 6x6 round bale, about 1,200 pounds. So come up. So I want you to tell me how much it's going to cost to feed a cow with the ration you develop. Now, what I would recommend you guys to do is to print this off, and you're going to use a lot of paper, scrap paper or whatever, but I would print it off, and then I would show, write all your answers on here. And can everybody scan and email this back to me? Does everybody have the capability of scanning and emailing it back?
I don't know what scanning is.
Not
Okay.
everybody has that ability, Dwayne.
Yeah, I don't have a printer.
Can I
All
write
right.
it down? Can we just put it into the computer?
What was your question, ma'am?
Can I put down the math that I did on the paper and the answer, and would that work? Or
Type it
All
up.
right, let me ask you, how many of you have the ability to do it on an attachment and attach it to an email and send it to Dwayne that way? Has everybody got a mechanism of doing that? Dwayne, will that work better than trying to scan it?
Yeah, I don't care how they do it. The easiest way I think would be just to work it out, scan it, and email it to you.
That's fine if you got a scanner, but that's not
Right,
the case.
if you have a scanner, but if you don't have a scanner, you can just work it out and then type it up in here and email it back to me. However you want to do it, just email it, just get it back to me. And we will make this assignment due the Tuesday you come back from Thanksgiving. Now, I know you're thinking I'm being mean, but giving you homework over Thanksgiving break, it shouldn't take you more than an hour or two to do. Okay? The other thing that I have up here for you guys, I have my cell phone written right there on that assignment. Call me. Okay? I will work you through this. If you've made an effort, I will help you. I promise. Now, if I do not answer my phone when you call, leave a voice message and leave your number, and I will call you back. I promise you. And I'll tell you where I will be. I will be the first of the week. I'll be up here doing some class stuff. During the day, I'm going to be hunting, and I'm going to be riding horses. Wednesday, I'm going to be driving to New Jersey, spending time with my wife's family, and on Saturday, I'll be driving back. I do not mind driving down the road and working out this problem with you. Okay? I can't do it when I'm on the back of a horse, and I'm not going to do it waiting for Bambi to come by, or Bambi's granddaddy to come by. But I will do it after dark, when I get back and get all my animals fed. I will do it when I'm working up here at the college. It's just a crapshoot. Just call me. I will, if I can't answer the phone, I will call you back and help you with it. Unfortunately, Greg's the only one I've had before, I think. And you've called me, and I've helped you with stuff. And John will tell you he's worked with me for years in this class. He will tell you, I don't have a problem with it. Just call me. I've had all sorts of students call me, and it doesn't bother me a lick. I've had them call me on Saturdays and Sundays, of the evenings. So don't be afraid to call. Any questions? Do you have any questions? You will have, probably. And guys, you can use your notes. You can work in groups. I want you to do this to learn how to do it. I can go over it till I'm blue in the face, and until you do it, you're not going to learn it. And, you know, just make, and if you're working in a group and y'all get hung up, call me. I don't want the blind leading the blind. Okay? As the old saying goes, the blind leading the blind. Or one of my teachers when I was in high school, he'd say, we don't need any blind leading the blind in here on test day now. Y'all get some space between you. So anything I can do to help you, just call. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we get started is on your syllabus. I told you we would have 3 exams throughout the semester and then a final exam. And due to the lack of content we have covered since the last exam, you know, we've covered 2 chapters, and what we cover today will be 2.5 to 3 chapters. Then you're going to come back and we'll have 3 classes left when you come back. Would y'all be opposed to not having the 3rd exam and just having the final exam? Let me have some feedback.
That's fine.
What you got?
We're still debating.
Let them work. I mean, is it going to be more than one exam would be? I mean, like, how would you break it up?
I will erase the points that the 3rd exam should carry. You know, I mean, I'll just take that off Blackboard altogether, so that number of points won't be figured in your final score.
Okay.
So you won't
But
get, you know, I'll act like it never existed. The final exam will still be worth 150 points? I think the syllabus says. Let me check it. I think I had 3 exams scheduled, and and they were each worth 100 points, and then the final exam was 150. But we can, you know, if we go that route, we will just don't even worry about the 3rd exam and just have the final.
And will you redo a study guide?
Yeah, I'll have a study guide for you.
So would the exam cover the content from the first and the second test, and then whatever we learn up until it's time to take, like only the last couple of chapters? Okay.
Yeah, the policy here at Southwest is for the finals to be comprehensive. So
Okay.
I do have to make it comprehensive. And so you will have content from the first 2 exams, but mainly the exam will concentrate on what we've covered since the last exam.
Could we do our 3rd test as like an open book?
No. Good try,
Nice
though.
try.
That you don't know unless you ask.
problem's just timing, trying to get everything done. And from where we sit, it's, we're against it, with all the variations in schedules and everything. It's just, that's, yeah, it's just too much. I'm sitting here right now working on one that I had 5 tests scheduled for, and there's no way in the world I can get more than 4 in.
Yeah.
So it's just the way the semester's falling. And we have to start with a tentative syllabus, and that's why they're tentative, because they're subject to change.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we ran into this week,
Don't
and
worry
I
about
run
it.
in, or this semester, and I run into it a lot in the spring semester because we missed due to snow. We missed a good week of class just because of issues with the microphone and connection issues. There were days it just did not work. And we didn't have class. And then there was something going on in the room that made us cancel class for. So that kind of that threw me for a loop on that. But it is what it is. We cover as much as we can, but what I want to do is go over genetics and go over reproduction, and I think I can get that in the next 3 class periods. So you guys at Southside, Keysville, and South Boston, and Patrick Henry okay with this?
Yes.
All right, so we'll forego that last exam 3 and just have our final. This homework will be graded that y'all are going to turn in, and so the homework will be graded that you're going to turn in, and I'll put another quiz up there on Blackboard for you as well. When this one goes offline tonight, I'll make another one available to you that covers the reproduction and genetic sections. And you can use your book with it, even though we may not get it all covered before I make the quiz available. You can look up the answer in the book or whatever.
The questions in the back of the chapters, they'll help us too, won't they? Like to get ready.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The questions in the back of the chapters, they'll help us to get ready for the exam too, right? Like on the new material? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So, and more than likely, the comprehensive stuff, or the stuff from the old material will probably be test questions you've seen before from the first two exams. So the new stuff would just be the questions you hadn't seen before would be covering the stuff we've had since the last exams. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Since the next chapter is on genetics, and genetics can be really tough. And it can be tough to understand. But I'm going to go over some stuff, just some basics. You've got, since Southside is getting ready to go to a bull sale here in a couple weeks, I'll go over some stuff from the book, but then I'll give you guys some other stuff So when you go to that bull cell and you're looking at the cell catalog, it's not all going to be written in, okay? So this stuff here that I'll go over right now, it will be game for example. And when we go over the other stuff, I'll let you know because I won't. I don't have that up on Blackboard for you. I just, when Tom said y'all were going to go to a bull cell, I pulled it up and I'm kind of gearing it for you guys there in Southside. But anyway, hopefully you'll understand more of what you're looking at when you go to that bull cell in terms of genetics. How important is genetics with livestock in animal science? All right, we have a most important,
Very important.
a very important, all right, so we have extremely, most, and very. And that's good because it is very important. Because of genetics, we've seen dairy production go up since 1940. In 1940, dairy cows were producing an average of around 5,000 pounds of milk per cow. In 2005, they were producing over 18,000 pounds of milk per cow. That's tremendous. Is all of that due to genetics? Do we have a super cow, super milk producing cow out there? Is all that gain due to genetics, or is it due to other things as well? Yeah, it's a combination. You know, we've since 1940, guys, we've learned so much about nutrition. Nutrition has changed for these dairy cows, and that's helped them some. Animal health has changed. In 1940, penicillin was a novelty. You know, we didn't really have very good antibiotics, let alone vaccines. Too many vaccines for cattle. So the animal health has improved. What about management? Yeah, management's improved. A lot of research has been done about cow comfort and how important that is. And with biosecurity, disease prevention, animal health, I mean, it's all played a big role. But the biggest role in this increase in production has been genetics. Even if we had all that in 1940, the cows probably would have milked a little bit more. So once they reach that genetic potential, that's it. It's like me, okay? I'm short. I could learn to be the best basketball player in the world, but I could never play in the NBA because I would get stuffed every time I went to take a shot. You know, my genetic potential is not going to let me grow any taller. So, the things we've learned with management and health and nutrition, it allows us to manage our livestock to reach their genetic potential. But once they reach that, we're kind of at a plateau. We have to continue, you know, genetics is there to get those animals more productive. More productivity, hopefully it means more money in their pocket. One other thing that is allowed, or not all dairies do this, it's very controversial. It's the availability of BST, somatotropin. It is a growth hormone, and that came onto the market in about 1990, 1991. It was going through the approval process. I remember when I was at Tech, they were talking about it, talking about it a lot. BST, the bovine somatotropin, is what it stands for. It's a growth hormone that you can give dairy cows, and they'll produce more milk. And there's a lot of negative connotivity about it because people think that if cows are given that hormone, then it's going to affect people. And in reality, and what research has shown over and over again, and the FDA approved this drug. The reason that BST does not affect people is because it is a protein hormone. There's two types of hormones produced in the body. One is steroid hormone, one is a protein hormone, the one type. And bovine somatotropin is a growth hormone, or is a protein hormone, and it is very species specific. It only works on cattle. If you or I were to take BST, our bodies would just digest it like a protein. You've heard of weightlifters and professional athletes. One of the things they do to bulk up, and it's illegal. They take growth hormone. Y'all have heard about that, right? You hear about it, during times of Olympics and stuff like that. They take human growth hormone, and that, in order for that to be effective, they have to take it by injection. Otherwise, it just gets digested in the digestive tract, and it's treated like any other protein. The growth hormone for athletes, human growth hormone, for that to be effective for them, they do that through injection. But it is a safe product. It's not going to hurt us as consumers drinking BST milk, but that has had an impact on milk production for the dairies. A lot of dairies, some of the cooperatives that the dairies sell their milk to, they don't allow it. So not a lot of cows get BST just because of the negative press, the misinformation. So, and it's not always the best management tool for a particular dairy. It's only going to increase milk production about 10%. And with that increased milk production, it's harder for that cow to get bred back. And you run a higher chance of mastitis, and the cow eats more. So a lot of dairies just choose not to even give it because it requires a lot more management. But that has helped with that milk production to an extent. Let's take a look at the poultry industry, how genetics has helped it. In 1945, it took 3 months to grow a chick to be about 2.5 pounds. Now, we can get a chick to grow up to 8 pounds, 8 period. So these broilers can get these chicks in. 2 months later, they're ready for harvest, and that's due mainly to genetics. Same thing with hen production, with layers. You know, chickens a hen will lay about 250 eggs a year. A lot of it's been due to management, getting them indoors, putting them under lights, getting them away from predators. But you know, it has the genetics been there also in production. It's been very significant in the beef industry with carcass crate, growth crate for calves, and it's also been very important in swine, getting our hogs leaner and grosser. Boy, they grow pretty quick. We can get hogs finished off up to 260, 280 pounds. Market hog. It hasn't affected the meat, the taste and palatability. They're still growing. What we've worked on a lot with in the hog industry is, used to be the hogs were really fat because people needed lard and used lard for everything, and they've gone to a very lean hog, and so they're not slaughtered at that. We're not trying to lay down fat for them now. We've worked a lot on feed efficiency, on how many pounds of feed per pound of muscle gain. That's decreased drastically in the swine industry. In the poultry industry, it's significant. And also in the swine industry as well. Yeah, in all three of the meat growing sectors, it's the feed efficiency is really skyrocketing. But it hasn't hurt the quality of meat. Beef, the thing we're really concerned about in beef is a pleasant eating experience when it comes to marbling. And some bloodlines of cattle would marble well, others didn't. Angus is a breed that tended to do that as a whole. Boy, they jumped on that in a heartbeat. But like we were talking the other day after class, if I take a prime steak from an Angus, or a prime steak from a Holstein, other than the look, and it's cooked the same, I'm not going to tell you which one's better. I can't tell the difference. But with the since we have mapped the genetic code, and we can look in there for certain genes to see if they have those carcass traits, and we can designate that bull or cow has the marbling gene and use those to increase their carcass traits. But it hasn't affected the quality of meat in a detrimental way. It's helped it more in a positive way than it hasn't hurt it. Right. Any questions? Okay. Now, let's just talk a little bit about the fundamentals of genetics. Some terms that you'll hear a lot is heritability, or heredity. Let's talk about heredity first. Heredity, that's just the transfer of traits or characteristics from two parents to the next generation. And genes, not your blue jeans you're wearing, genes, G-E-N-E-S, are the unit of inheritance. You've all heard of DNA, right? DNA, the official name is deoxyribonucleic acid. We call it DNA for short. And you can look in the book, there's a picture of it. On page 291. But it's a double helix, like two springs put together. You've got kind of winds around. DNA is composed of two strands of alternating deoxyribose, and that's a 5-carbon sugar molecule and a phosphate. And that's what, that's your main unit of inheritance. They code for proteins. You tell what cells can make protein. And every cell has a genetic code consisting of DNA type of modification it may have. Now, the genetic code for an animal consists of a series of codons, and that's like a certain sequence of those sugars. There's different types of those sugars in the DNA. There's about 4 of them, and the way they're lined up in their sequences, a certain pattern of a certain length of it is called a codon. And all animals and plants and living organisms, these codons, they code for specific amino acids. And we know amino acids are building blocks for a protein, right? And as I said, the gene is the unit of heredity, and that's composed of DNA. And the genes, they're arranged in a line in chromosome pairs, and the number of chromosomes will vary from species to species. And another term you'll hear a lot are they call it microsatellites. Microsatellites are just simple sequence repeats, and that's what they use to map the genetic code. That's why they go in there when they do a test, say on a bull, to see if it has the gene for carcass traits. They look for those microsatellites. They found out a certain sequence says, hey, this is a trait for carcass, for marble. And they look for that sequence of genes. That sequence of the sugar, the DNA. And that's how they map that out. They do to see if an animal carries a certain trait. They look for the microsatellites. Guys, that is a boom. Animal genetics, that is just exploding. Especially since we know how to we've identified markers for good quality for traits that we like in animals. You can go in there, pull a blood sample, get root, a hair root, and look at that. You can test it. We look for those sequences for diseases in cattle, horses, pigs. You know, if it's a genetic disease like the one I'm thinking off the top of my head, it's a genetic disease in horses. It's their ability to digest polysaccharide rock, complex sugar. I'm sorry. So that industry is taking off. And you know, they've got the sequences of cattle, chickens, horses, and pigs. And I think they've got it in humans. And now one of the ways they're treating cancer, guys, is through this genetic testing deal. They'll take the cancer cell and they do a genetic test on it, figure out exactly where its weak spot is, and they target it. They'll use a genetic to go in there, destroy those cancers. Drug heart. So it's used a lot. When we see genetic change in animals, drastic genetic change from a mutation, it's either going to be one of two things. It's going to be terrible, or it's not going to have effect. You know, when I say terrible, usually that animal will die shortly after birth, or the fetus will not grow properly, and the mother, the dam, will abort that fetus prior to giving birth, or it doesn't have much of an effect, or it doesn't have any effect at all on the animal. So mutations can be bad or just not have much of an effect. Sometimes mutations happen and you get that freak animal. There was a dairy cow, and I don't remember her name. This was back in the 80s, late 80s. And she was just a freak of nature with the pounds of milk. But her offspring didn't have some type of mutation. Very, and that doesn't happen very often. Another term.
Dairy cow the other day that had 4 calves.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. That I don't know how everything lived. I'm not going to lie to you. The chances of that happening are very slim. And that might have been, and I don't know the history of that, whether that was just a natural deal, or if they tried to super ovulate that cow and flush out those fertilized eggs, and they left a few, or if she just ovulated more than one egg, and that's where all those, they've all got fertilized, or if that split, like with identical twins in people, if that zygote or that fertilized egg split 4 ways. I really don't know what the background of that of that is. Usually when people, have I don't want to say a litter of babies, but you hear of like sextuplet, six a lady having 6 babies, 8 babies, or 5 babies. A lot of times, in most of those instances, from my understanding, I can be corrected, okay? Those ladies had issues of getting pregnant, and so they gave them fertility drugs, and that was the reason that happened. So I don't know if that's the story behind the 4 calves or not. Twinning in cattle, we don't see it a whole lot. You'll see it, when I was at Stewart's, and we ran 1,500 brood cows, 15 to 1,800 brood cows, and you would see twins. You'd see 2 or 3 sets of twins a year. So, it's not a very common deal, and it's not, I don't know, it's not very, in my mind, it's a double-edged sword, whether it's desirable or not desirable, because, if a heifer and a bull calf are born, if you have twins with one boy and a girl, the heifer is sterile, her reproduction tract didn't develop because of the testosterone from the male and the way the placenta deal is. In lambs, it's okay, but in cattle, the female sterile when it's born to a male twin. No. Yep. So, and sometimes that's more, there is a genetic deal with twinning, but I don't know how practical it is in real life. If it's something we can select for, just because for meeting the extra labor involved with the set of twins. Another word that you'll hear a lot in the cattle industry, another term you'll hear is epidemic. Now, that's not a term I really knew about until a couple of years ago. What epidemic did, they're heritable changes in the gene expression. It's not in the book says it's not encoded by the DNA. Now, what it is, it's to give you an example. We've known about it for a while. There was a big famine in Hungary, and what had happened was pregnant women did not get enough, not a but it expressed itself on the women that were malnourished and had babies, and their offspring didn't grow as well or whatever it may be. And then in Nazi Germany, when they did when they had the Jews in the concentration camp, we saw the same thing happen. And then they've related that to animals, and they saw a lot of it during the drought in the Southwest when those cows just did not have a lot to eat. Even though, those calves from those cows did not perform as well. And then if those ranchers kept back the heifers from those cows and bred them, their offspring never did do as well during the time when that cow is malnourished. So, in a real life situation, if you're in a drought situation and don't feed your cattle properly, when don't save anything back from your herd for replacement, send them all to market. But once you get back on a good plane of nutrition, then you can start keeping your calves out. There were expressions of genes, or genes were expressed in those offspring for some reason. I don't, so, nutrition not only affects reproduction, it also heritability is a term you'll hear a lot in genetics. And they're saying, you'll hear it with cattle like reproduction's not highly heritable. Heritability is the proportion of the total variation between genetic environment that's due to its gene effect. What it does, it's an estimate of that. It's an estimate that expresses the degree to which the trait is passed from parent to offspring. So, like, if we take a look at reproduction, there's a lot of environmental factors that go into reproduction. Whereas if we just take a look at growth, growth is a lot highly heritable, more highly heritable than reproduction. You can have a really fertile cow, but if you don't feed her right, she's not going to reproduce. Whereas growth, even if you don't feed that calf right, he'll still grow. And he still may grow better than it's a term you'll hear when you're out there, talking about genetics. When we take a look at breeding systems, breeding animals, we can breed, purebred. They like just pure Angus cattle, or pure Hereford cattle, pure Landrace hogs, whatever it is. You have that purebred line. You can also crossbreed. You can breed different breeds of cattle together. You find two breeds that are similar, or that the trait, the good trait that complement. A classic cross would be the Hereford and Angus, black baldies. Really took advantage of the carcass trait of Angus cattle, the docileness and the growth of the Hereford, and they're both good maternal cows. And you got what they call heterosis, which is that offspring does better than the average of parent breeds. And then you can have these synthetic crosses. I don't know a better term to say. It's like a four-way cross, five-way cross, coming up with a positive cross with several different breeds, looking for the breeds to complement each other. A good example of that would be, if you're familiar with cattle, and the breed we just called them Mark IV. They were developed at Clay Center, Nebraska. It's a USDA research center, and they do a lot of work with genetics. And the Mark IV cattle was a quarter Angus, a quarter Hereford, a quarter Gelt Wheat, and a quarter Simmental. And there's several different ranches out there that come up with a bunch of different crosses. I think the R.A. Brown Ranch in Texas came up with the Hot Trotter. They had some Cinepole and some Brahma in there. I don't know what else they had, but there's different lines. A prominent cattle farm here, the guys passed on, but it was Van Stewart. He came up with a cross called he dubbed American Redneck, and it was Red Angus and Simmental and Hereford, and those were really good cattle. And I don't remember the percentage of each breed that he was holding that had in there, but they did really well. But those things are going on. We see it a lot in the broiler industry. Okay. Yeah. We've seen it a lot. We see that synthetic cross in the broiler industry. Where they'll have those broiler chicks will be like a 4-way cross. It's also the same way in the swine industry. They'll use about 4 different breeds in there to get to do the market hog. And then there's line breeding, inbreeding. That's breeding closely related to relatives. I don't know the difference between line breeding and inbreeding. There is supposed to be one of them's breeding. I think line breeding and inbreeding, you're breeding closely related relatives. But the redneck definition that we've always said around where I live when it comes to inbreeding and line breeding. Line breeding works, and inbred you have a 5-legged calf. But that goes on as well. If you take a look at a lot of these purebred operations, I don't want to get too deep into genetics. It can get pretty confusing, and we're running out of time, and I really want to go over reproduction. So I wanted to hit a little bit about the genetics. The other thing I wanted to go over, I want to do this, go over for you guys going there in Southside, and you'll see this a lot. Let me try to get it pulled up. I've lost it. Here I go. When you go to that cell and you're looking at the cell catalog, and you guys that raise beef cattle, you'll know what I'm talking about here in a second. But when we think about a couple other terms you need to know, one of them is phenotype. Okay, and that's what the cow looks like, or what the animal looks like. And it's determined by 2 things. It's determined by the genetic makeup of the animal, and it's also determined by the environment. So 2 other terms you need to know is phenotype and genotype. Genotype is the genetic makeup of the animal. So an easy example on that would be horned cattle versus polled cattle. The environment has no effect on whether the animal has horns or not. That's just pure genotype. Okay? But if you look at the animal, the phenotype says no horns or it has horns. So the phenotype would say it has horns. The genotype of the animal, it could be one of a horned animal is going to have one of three genotypes. It's either going to be dominant horns. You know, the horn gene is recessive. Okay, the pole gene is dominant. So if a cow is polled, that pole where that's an expressive gene, it's either going to be dominant pole. The two genes will be big P's, or it will be a big P and a little p, or it'll be a little p and a big P. It has to carry the pole. It will carry that pole gene. The horn, for horned cattle, it's a recessive gene, and the denotation for that would be two little p's. So for cattle to have horns, it has to have two recessive genes. So you can look at an animal and see the phenotype says it has horns or it doesn't have horns, but you would have to have a genetic test done to see if it's homozygous for horns, which is the same gene, the big P, big P, or heterozygous. It would have a big, or polled, I mean. You can look and see if it's polled. If it's polled, it's going to have the big P, big. It can have the two dominant genes, or it can have a dominant gene and a recessive gene for polled. And you'd only know that through a genetic test, whether it was you had the DNA tested or you bred that bull to horned cows. And if the calf came out horned, or if one of the calves came out horned, then you know the carrier for that horned gene. Does that make sense? So phenotype is how it looks. The genotype is the genetic code. And the phenotype is determined by the environment, and it's determined by the genotype. You got two factors in there. And there's two other terms you need to know. One is quantitative traits, and quantitative traits are traits where very few genes are involved. That's going to be like a red cow versus a black cow, or horned versus polled. The other type of traits, the other term is qualitative. And qualitative traits are influenced by many pairs of genes. And the way I remember that is qualitative traits you can measure. You can take weights of cattle. You can measure milk production in a cow. Those are qualitative traits. They're influenced by many pairs of genes, and they can be measured. Or that effect can be measured, growth or milk production. And they can be influenced by the environment, the qualitative traits. So we've got calf with a lot of potential for growth, and we don't feed him properly, then he's not going to express those traits. It's the environment affected the expression of those traits. Does that make sense? Now, the environment, not only nutrition, but weather, whether or not they get sick, whether or not they get injured, parasites, internal parasites, or all that can affect the qualitative traits. and it can also affect the phenotype of an animal, what that animal looks like. Now, the thing we run into when we're breeding animals is how do we select superior genetic animals? So, I'm asking you guys, how do I select genetically superior animals? What do I look for? If I'm at that bull sale that y'all are going to go to, and there's 4 or 5 bulls in the same pen, and they look very similar, how do I tell, or how can I tell as a producer, what tools do I have available to me to help me pick out that superior genetic animal? Okay, but that's I understand what you're looking at or where you're coming from. You know, what am I breeding to? But what am I going to be looking at? What are some tools? What's some information out there? Yeah, how can I tell genetically? Okay, so I can look at the performance of that bull, right? I can look at what did he weigh at birth, what did he weigh at weaning, what did he weigh at a year of age, what was his average daily gain. Well, that's going to be, hopefully they've been seen checked or have a guarantee on it. But so I can look at the performance of that bull, right? The data that's been collected on it. That's one way I can tell to pick out superior genetic animals. What's another tool that we have? What about the performance of his offspring, if he has any? Can I look at what his calves weighed? What were their birth weights? Has any of them been to slaughter? What's his carcass weight? You know, we can ultrasound those bulls and figure out. We can ultrasound and take a measurement of his ribeye area and a few carcass traits. But we can look at their individual performance. We can look at the performance of the offspring, if they have any. And we also look at the performance of his parents. Yeah. We can look at the performance of his parent, of his grandparent. We can look at the performance of his siblings, right? So there's a lot of tools out there, or a lot of data out there, that performance data that we can pick out a superior animal. And guys, that's why we keep records. Okay, we keep records of how much these calves weigh, how much they weighed at birth. Or one of the reasons why we keep records. You need, it's just business sense. But it also helps us pick out those heifers we want to keep. About knowing the history of what are damaged. So, we can look at performance records. What about their environment? Do we know anything about the environment they were raised in? Probably not. Okay? We don't know if they were raised in ideal environments or if they were raised in harsh environments. That could affect how well they gain. That could affect weaning weights. It can affect yearling weight. We don't know whether or not they got sick. We don't know whether or not they had parasites. We're just looking at hard data. But the environment play an effect on that. And so when we're about out of time. But the thing you're going to see when you're looking at cattle to buy, one of the tools that we use are what's called EPD, expected quantity differences. And when you get there and you see the catalog, you're going to see a bull's name. You're going to see they'll have what is his sire's name and his dam's name there, and they're going to have a list of numbers out there. They're going to have some numbers out there. These are a few numbers, they're not a lot. They're going to have accuracy. They're going to have this ACC number. That stands for accuracy. How accurate are these predictions? The closer that gets to 1, the more accurate that is. What EPDs compare? They compare breeds, or they compare individuals within a breed. Okay, you cannot use, unless you have a special chart, a crossbreed EPD. Basically, you're comparing animals within a breed. Angus, bull A to bull B, certain breed, whether it's Angus, Hereford, whatever. And the YW stands for yearling weight, and that number is going to represent that bull progeny are expected to gain, say, 13 pounds more than the average. Does that make sense? DPDs are a big tool for us to use these days. But you'll get there to that cell, and you'll have a lot of those EPDs. You'll have those EPDs. Birth weight, calving age, direct, some breed, yearling weight, weaning weight, milk production. Milk production, that's going to be how much more weight his grandkid will gain due to his daughter's milk producing ability. But it's just trying to take out the environment and looking solely at genetics. We're out of time, so hopefully that'll help you guys when you go to that cell. And that's just kind of a quick.
You said that the animal science class doesn't have a lab tomorrow, right?
Animal science does not. Rest of you meet me here, that group will meet me here about 8:45.
Okay.
Front of the building. All right.
We have a good amount of time it is. Is chapter 12 this weekend? I think it's not due till after Thanksgiving.
Probably not.
But we usually have one that's due like every Sunday.
I'm not meeting you at Dodger until like 9 something.
Do what? Yeah, 9:15, 9:20. It's gonna take us a little bit to get down there. A little bit of variability in the schedule, so you just start.
Be there for a little ride, buddy.
I have an idea of doctor's appointment. Alright, that sounds good.
I think you want all 8 o'clock classes.
You're trying to kill me.
You didn't see me get this one down.
8:30 sound good? Okay. We'll be here about 8:30. So all of you are caught up on the Did you take that